Okay, thank you. Primero de todo, muchas gracias a todos y a todas por asistir a esta primera y esperemos que no única webinar. Me presento, soy Judith, responsable comercial de Fertilibérica y sobre todo muchas gracias a la colaboración de Bonray Bio, en especial Lucas, muchas gracias, ya que sin ellos no hubiéramos podido realizar esta webinar. Esta tarde vamos a tener con nosotros al doctor Andreas Abraham, que nos hará de moderador y de intérprete, ayudándonos con el idioma inglés-español, español-inglés. El doctor Andreas es responsable del Departamento Internacional en Eugene, aparte de otras responsabilidades, y también colabora en un centro de reproducción en Copenhague. Bienvenidos, Andreas. A continuación nos dará la charla el profesor Agarwal. Hello, profesor. Thank you. Nos va a hablar del analizador seminal LensHooke. La charla será en inglés, pero no os preocupéis porque después tendremos la oportunidad de preguntar todas aquellas dudas que nos hayan quedado gracias a la colaboración y la traducción del doctor Andreas. Muchas gracias y bienvenidos. Andreas.
So I'll switch to English. Thank you, Judith, for the kind introduction and thanks for the invitation. As Judith pointed out, in case it's necessary, I can translate into Spanish, so there's no worries. Actually, I'm quite excited to moderate this session because being a clinician, OBGYN by training myself, I think that we all can see in our daily practice how infertility is mostly focused on the female factor. Though we have male and female patients at the same time, the females get kind of more attention. And for that reason, I think it's very interesting to have Professor Ashok Agarwal today with us, one of the go-to experts in male factor infertility and andrology worldwide. And the second reason why I'm excited to learn something today, hopefully, is that the topic artificial intelligence, obviously, not just since this year's ESHRE and ASRM, is a very hot topic. It's kind of the new kid on the block. And so I think, especially the male factor infertility, sperm sorting, sperm analysis is made for artificial intelligence. And I think we can expect a lot of new exciting things in this sector, whereas other clinical fields might not be so prone and apt for artificial intelligence. So, and another thing, obviously, it's kind of a worldwide epidemic. Male factor problem and infertilities are on the rise due to lifestyle and maybe also chemicals that disrupt fertility. Well, therefore, without more ado, I will introduce our speaker. Professor Ashok Agarwal is Director of the American Center of Reproductive Medicine, Director for Research and Training. He is professor at the Case Western Reserve University and director and founder of the Global Andrology Forum. And as I said, he has an extent expertise and scientific track record in the field. So I'm very excited and happy to moderate this session. And I would say the floor is yours, Professor.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Judith. And thank you very much, our esteemed professor, Dr. Andreas Abraham, for your very kind and generous introduction. Let me just open my presentation and then I can begin discussing. So give me 1 second to bring my presentation out. I hope you can see it correctly. Dr. Andrews, is the screen showing correctly?
All good, all good,
Oh.
all correct.
Wonderful. So let me just once again, a very good morning because it's in Cleveland here. We are, it's about 10 o'clock Eastern time. I know it's afternoon in Spain, so thank you very much for joining. I am so happy to be in front of all of you virtually. I hope that you can listen to me, and I'll try to speak slowly just to make sure that you can follow me. So as the introduction by Professor Andreas, my interest in the field of reproductive medicine is on the male gamete, andrology, and male infertility is my interest, and I'm very much working in this area for many years. Today I am going to speak more about the new device for semen analysis using artificial intelligence, which we believe is revolutionary in the entire world for this particular process for evaluation of male fertility. So I'm going to focus on that and briefly talk about a few other things, but my real talk is going to be centered about examination of semen sample using this new technology and how this technology can be applied in clinics around the world, and that is the focus. So let me begin. Well, I think we all know that conception is a complex process. It takes two to tango. Not only the egg, but also the sperm have to be healthy. And even after 12 months, only 15 to 25% of couples actually fail to conceive. So it's not something that happens easily for all of us, but there are couples who fail. And I think if you look at the statistics, if you look at the literature, male factor is responsible in about half of all cases of infertility. In many of those cases, the male factor is hidden or silent. So we don't really understand the failure of assisted reproductive techniques because we really lack the knowledge to understand the part that the male factor perhaps plays behind the scene in failure of the cases of implantation or pregnancy or miscarriages or recurrent pregnancy loss, because there is lack of understanding of the male factor. What are the real reasons for this increase in male infertility? There are so many reasons that we know for a long time and which we understand are very well described and understood. Varicocele, which is one of the major cause where there is a swelling of the pampiniform plexus, which brings the blood into the testis, and that can increase the temperature by 1 or 2 degrees, that can cause changes and disturbance in the process of sperm production and make the sperm which are defective or less fertilizable. And it's a major cause and it's a correctable cause which can be corrected by surgical repair. And that is a very much a cause of male infertility. About 30 to 40% of patients with poor semen quality and male infertility have varicocele. Then we have infection of male reproductive tract. Then there is a blockage of the delivery ducts, epididymis, or there is a blockage in vas deferens. So there are various places where there could be a blockage that can prevent the sperm to travel from testis, from retitestis, from epididymis to vas deferens to actual ejaculatory duct. And then there is a testicular trauma that can happen at sometime either in life, during the childhood or adolescence or later. The internet sometimes plays a trick. So anyway, I was talking about the advanced male age as well as female age. People are waiting until the ages of 30, 35, 40, and it is considered normal. It is not abnormal. There are a big shift in the last 20, 30 years, and people who are trying to settle down and get everything ready before they commit to have a marriage is decreasing, and there are is increasing, and there are more and more people who are in the ages, both men and women. And as we know that the fertility, especially in the women at the ages of 35, really dramatically decreased. Similarly, in the male, there are so many studies that have shown that there is a decrease in the semen quality after the ages of 35, 40, and also increase in sperm DNA fragmentation as the age increases. Then there is a very big increase these days in the sexually transmitted diseases, gonorrhea, chlamydia, ureaplasma, all over the world, especially in reproductive age couples or men and women, and that can affect the reproductive. And there are environmental causes that we heard from Professor Andreas, and these are something that we listen in many publications, and sometimes we don't pay attention because these are large-scale studies. We see some studies published in very good journals, but they are studies which are we call observational studies. These are not studies which are interventional studies, because you cannot really have the patients or the couples exposed to these causes, these type of factors intentionally. That will be unethical. So they have many types of limitations in terms of the results that are presented, but still they are very large studies, and they have shown that many of these type of endocrine disrupting chemicals such as phthalate, bisphenol, pesticide, and occupational exposure, which is occurring because of the factories, because of the airlines, because of the vehicles, and all kinds of occupational exposure to air pollutant cause damage to our reproductive health, which may express itself either on the same during the same life of the individual, or it may appear in the offspring or the children who are born of the parents who have been exposed. So it may take a long time for these changes, and these are silent type of factors which are not something that you will notice next day, that if you are exposed to phthalates, which are called forever chemicals. They are called forever chemicals, means they will never disappear. They are all around us, in our kitchen, in our home, in everything that we breathe. They cannot disappear because they are present in all the things that we use. And then their lifestyle factor. You mentioned, Professor Andreas mentioned about a sedentary lifestyle. We are doing these programs, and I believe 2-3 years before that, these type of programs were very rare or very limited. And certainly, I was not even familiar with what is Zoom. And things changed due to pandemic. And now, even when pandemic at least is over in a majority of the world in a serious way, but still, I think we are using this technology. And what has done is they have made us very sedentary. We are not moving. and also because of the pandemic. And then, of course, before that, obesity and change in our lifestyle. We are no longer walking in the park and going around and doing the things. We don't go to the neighbor and talk to each other and say, hello, how are you? You know, in America, if you go to somebody's home unannounced without making a phone call, then they will say, why did you come? I didn't ask you. And sometimes if you go into their property without announcing, they may shoot you. They'll kill you and say, well, you know, you are trespassing in my property. You have no business to enter in my house. And I have every right to protect myself. So this is really, I think, a dangerous time when we are not social. We are trying to become isolated and then there are things like cell phone. All of us use. I use cell phone all the time. But I was the first one. Actually, the study that we published in Fertility and Sterility about 10 years ago showed there is a dramatic decline in semen quality, count, motility, count, motility, and then increase in oxidative stress, decrease in viability after 2 to 4 hours of exposure to cell phone radiation. And this was shown as an observational study followed by an experimental study in the lab where we showed that cell phone exposure, the electromagnetic radiation that is generated by the cell phone affects the sperm that are there, ejaculated sperm, and decreases their fertility, increases the DNA damage, increases the oxidative stress. So these things are no longer theoretical. After our report, there were hundreds of reports that have come out about the harmful effect of cell phone radiation or excessive use of cell phone radiation, cell phone use. And this is no longer a theoretical thing. Of course, the cell phone companies try to use their power to make it impossible for any of these studies to be implemented into laws. But it certainly is something that everyone should be aware. So let's talk about the global incidence of male infertility. If you read our article, which was published about 5-6 years ago in Reproductive Biology and Endocrinology, we were the first one to report the global incidence of male infertility in an epidemiological study because there is no data on male factor infertility. So we were the first one by using the data which is available on the female infertility and backtracking and calculating. We were able to show that the male factor infertility is a worldwide problem, and the data on male factor infertility is not collected. It is always the woman where the data is available in large number of studies. But what we know is that from a WHO data, that almost 100 million male factor, and this data is this data about 200 million infertile couples is about 20-year-old, and it's a governmental data, so I don't believe it so much. I think the data on infertility is almost 300 to 400 million, and about half of them, as you see, are due to the male factor. And in about half of them, we understand the causes of infertility, as I showed, and in half of them we don't understand. This is what we call as idiopathic infertility, and this is the group of men with male factor infertility where we understand what is really the problem. They may have an abnormal semen quality, or they may have a normal semen quality, but they may have other types of defects that are not really easy to understand by a routine semen examination. So there is a dramatic decline in semen quality. This is a study from Dr. Levine from Israel, published in Human Reproduction Update. But now, just this 2 weeks ago, the same author and his group have published another paper in Human Reproduction Update, like a new update on their own study, which demonstrates a dramatic decline, and it's all over the news. I think if you type in the Google this study, and you will see the latest one, which has come out 2 weeks ago, and it really projects really dramatic decline, almost 50% decline in semen quality around the world. So this is something which is really being published in the most prestigious journal. And when we know male factor infertility is there is a standard evaluation by a andrologist or urologist who's trained in male infertility, taking the reproductive history, doing the physical exam, and then doing various types of examination, semen examination, doing the blood test and radiographic test if necessary. So the semen examination is the very first one. And the WHO 6th edition, World Health Organization 6th edition guidelines provide a roadmap for standardized evaluation of semen analysis for all laboratories around the world. And this is a basic examination, which is macroscopic and microscopic. And then there is an advanced examination, which includes a variety of tests, and some of them are explained here according to the type of test that we have been used to doing back in our clinics. But I wanted to talk about today about manual semen analysis. Manual semen analysis is the most important first test that has to be done on men who are coming for or couples who are coming for evaluation. The semen analysis really is the first test that needs to be done. So what is it that the semen analysis involves? Well, it is the cornerstone of male infertility evaluation. World Health Organization over the last 50 years has developed various guidelines. This does not include the one which came out in 2021. So that is the latest 6th edition. And it is the semen analysis by itself is highly subjective. It's very difficult to standardize, although it appears as a very simple test. But in studies after studies in the United States and Europe, investigators and researchers have demonstrated that most laboratory specialists who are conducting the semen analysis do it inaccurately. The 90% of the labs are not able to reproduce the results correctly, and the test results are inaccurate. It's a high complexity test according to the guidelines from CLIA, which is a governmental guideline in the agency in the United States, Clinical Laboratory Improvement Act. And these tests are very difficult to perform and prone to a lot of errors. And because of that, they are regulated, because they require quality control, quality assurance, proficiency testing, and competency assessment, personnel requirement, etc., in order for the laboratory staff or andrologists to be able, or embryologists to conduct this correctly. And this is why we wrote this article, which really tells what is the reason for these problems in routine semen analysis. The problems are because of the subjectivity of the individual semen parameter, because the same semen sample could have 20 million or 10 million and can become 40 million and can become 100 million. And this is individual variation. And this is why you have to do at least 2 or 3 semen analysis, at least 2 semen analysis, proper examination after at least with a break of 2 months, 2 to 3 months. And there is a lack of standardized protocols for training and quality assurance assessment in andrology laboratory. And therefore, it is important to follow the World Health Organization guidelines, which have been provided by a group of experts from all over the world, which really tells each and every test and how they should be performed. And the WHO guidelines keep on changing, and there is a great deal of uncertainty as to what these guidelines are telling. And people have to read them because these guidelines are also not small. The latest guideline from 6th edition is almost 300 pages. So you have to work very hard to read the rest, because if you're doing concentration, there are so many variations, different types of chambers, sampling error, and then for morphology, we have subjectivity of classification because the sperm forms look different, and there is a classification error, sampling error. So all of this really makes it very difficult, and it can also result in it can impact on the actual management of infertile couple. For example, a couple who may actually be normal or normospermic may come out by the laboratory to be classified as oligospermic, and you may choose a treatment modality such as IVF rather than a simple IUI for that patient. So there are various things which can affect in terms of incorrect semen analysis results can impact on the management as well. So these are the steps which takes, because semen analysis takes a lot of time. You have to check the liquefaction, the color, the pH, the volume, and load the sample, place the counting chamber on microscope, evaluate the concentration manually, evaluate the percent motility, and clean the counting chamber, whatever type of chamber you are using. These are more than 9 steps, and it takes almost 20 minutes to finish the test. Of course, you have to let the sample liquefy for another 20 minutes before. And then in addition, you have to do the morphology, because morphology, of course, is the very important factor which is correlated with the results of assisted reproductive treatment, especially IVF, and even in cases of ICSI. Here, this can take as much as 12 to 13 steps, and almost even with the fastest technique of DiffQuick, it can take a long time. It may take almost an hour of your time before you are able to complete the morphology, and sometimes you have to delay and may not be able to do it on the same day. And this really makes it difficult for the laboratories to release the results to the patient on the same day. So the manual semen analysis has so many steps. The more the steps, the more the chances of mistakes. So let's talk about the concept of artificial intelligence. It's not a concept. It has been there for a long time. As you see, we have this going on from last almost 70 years. When the early artificial intelligence was introduced. And then I think over the years, the main idea is that machine makes the judgment by the criteria which is introduced or entered by the operator. And then we, over the last 40 years, the machine learning has become more and more common, which is essentially a factor of database training, where you create the database for a particular subject of your interest, whether it is sperm morphology, in andrology, or quality of semen, whether it is asthenozoospermia or normozoospermia, and train the machine to make the judgment. And you will tell whether it is normal or abnormal, asthenozoospermic or normozoospermic, by entering large amount of data and allowing it to predict based on the yes and no type of thing. And then in more recent years, the self-learning by deep learning, which is essentially self-learning when the database which you have entered into the computer has large amount, like 100,000, 200,000, 500,000 databases or data of a particular type. The machine could start to learn by itself, because there is so much data that it can start to predict the outcome on itself. So AI is the simulation of human intelligence processes by especially computer system, and specific examples, applications of AI include expert system, natural language processing, speech recognition, and machine vision. So I think the main thing that we can see is the self-driving car are a good example, because they do a pretty good job of mimicking human intelligence by using image recognition to maneuver through roads and make key decisions. So artificial intelligence at its the most basic is a machine which displays the characteristic exhibited by a human. The term may be applied to any machine that exhibits traits associated with human mind, such as learning and problem solving, but it does not have emotion. So this is important, that machine does not have emotion. So this is basically a way of making a computer, robot, or software think and act like a human. And we see that in various types of devices, Siri or other type of things that we see on a day-to-day basis. Alexa, which is from Amazon, and so many other type of products that we use on a day-to-day basis. Let's change the subject and move into the semen analysis and talk about computer-assisted semen analysis system. And these are some of the devices that are used in all over the world. These are computer-assisted semen analysis system, which were introduced about 50 years ago. I remember using when I was at Harvard in 1980s, we bought a system called LensHooke. This was a machine from motion analysis, which is a huge machine, huge machine. I had to go to New York to do some learning, and in the company's headquarters there in New York. And then it was a very expensive machine at that time, almost, I'm talking about 40 years ago. This machine costed us $75,000 US. And we bought this machine to conduct various studies back when I was a faculty at Harvard Medical School. But then, of course, a large number of companies jumped into this, and it's essentially, again, a artificial intelligence in CASA system. We have so many market leaders, Microptic, Hamilton Thorne, and Medical Electronic System. And they have different devices. These are just some models to show you that, and these are current systems, but there are so many others which are available. Just to give you an introduction, these are some of the advantages of using the systems. These are for busy labs, improve the efficiencies, improves the reproducibility, but these machines are semi-automated. Most of them are not completely automated. And these are objective and can be used for large scale testing. If you have a busy clinic, busy lab with multiple embryologists who are working and doing the work to do the semen analysis or examination, then these machines can be very helpful. However, aside from the advantages, the limitations of these systems, they are really huge. Many of them are huge, although technology is changing now. And you need to really be trained very well to operate these devices. These are not something that are ready to use immediately. And there are variations in inter-operator results between the technician. The results are not always matching. And requires considerable amount of time to report the results. And the most important problem is that they are very expensive. And let's look at the diagnostic challenges. I think this is something we talked about already. Artificial intelligence, a technique which enables the machine to mimic human behavior, machine learning, and deep learning. So let's go to an example of a device which uses deep learning. It is called LensHooke X1 Pro. I'm talking about it because I have personal experience working with this. We were the first one to validate this system in the United States and around the world, and did clinical trial, which was published in high impact journal. So I wanted to show you not only what are the important attributes of this device, but also the results of the studies that we had conducted as a part of our validation. So LensHooke X1 Pro is a device which is available now in most markets around the world. It's FDA approved and also approved in EU and many other markets. The semen analysis requires only 3 steps, and it's only 2 to 5 minutes in length. In terms of the duration, it takes the pH, it does the concentration, motility, and morphology. So pretty much everything. And here is a short demonstration. You have to put 2 drops of maybe 30 microliter each into this cassette, which is then loaded into this small device, which is more or less a little bit larger than the cell phone, your iPhone. And then you get the results, wait for 3 minutes, and the results are out in this display. So there is a, the next slide is a video, a 30-second video. I will try to play and see if it works. So give me 1 second to see if I can play this. I always have problems with this to play. Well, I will pass this slide because I don't know why I cannot. Maybe I have to change for a second. Okay. I think that's pretty much it. So, are you able to see my screen correctly now, Dr. Andreas or Judith?
Yes, we can see the slides.
Okay, thank you. Let me start with the studies that we have conducted, and this is using the X1 Pro. And in this study, we had about 101 samples which were analyzed by both manual semen analysis and commercial semen analyzers such as Hamilton Thorne, IVOS, and LensHooke Pro CASA X1 Pro using WHO, because the study was done about 4 years ago, and we examined all the important parameters of the semen. And the results of correlation between manual semen analysis and X1 Pro, as well as with Hamilton Thorne, are described here. You can see that we had the samples which were oligospermic, asthenospermic, normospermic from patients and donor, and samples were analyzed by manual semen analysis, LensHooke, and Hamilton Thorne. And you can see the correlation coefficient for concentration for between manual and LensHooke are very, very high for concentration, for motility, as well as for progressive motility. And the correlation between manual and Hamilton Thorne was also very good. And then between LensHooke and Hamilton Thorne, the results were also very good. That shows that the results are comparable between manual, which is our gold standard, which employed our experienced andrologists. And these results, as you can see in the graphs here, show perfect correlations as are demonstrated here. And these results are actually published. These are no longer unpublished. And you can see them in World Journal of Men's Health. And then these are the results of sensitivity, specificity, positive predictive value and negative predictive value for semen parameters between manual semen analysis and X1 Pro. Again, for all the parameters, we have excellent results, except for morphology, which I will show later on. But if you look at the positive predictive value or the negative predictive values are very, very, very good. And then we also did the intra-observer agreement to see if the results analyzed by the same operator multiple times are reproducible. And the same operator did 10 samples by both manual and X1 Pro at the same time and took 3 readings. And the results again show very good correlation for all the semen parameters for LensHooke as well as for manual analysis. That shows high intra-observer agreement for concentration, total motility, and progressive motility, which is comparable to a manual semen analysis. We also did inter-observer agreement between manual semen analysis and X1 Pro. And inter-observer means we use multiple observers which conducted the semen analysis both on manual and X1 Pro at the same time and analyzed the results. And these results show a very high degree of correlation, as you can see here, for concentration, motility, and morphology. And then people ask as to how the X1 Pro algorithm actually works. So if you look at the concentration, the algorithm actually can identify whether there are sperm or no sperm. It uses the image that is taken by its camera to define if it is a sperm or not. The main criteria is to recognize the tail. For motility, again, it is able to tell total motility, progressive motility, and non-progressive, and uses the video to define how the sperm move based on WHO Now it is the sixth edition. And then for morphology, it is able to tell normal or abnormal using the high definition image to measure the size to define if it is normal, and then uses the machine learning technology to select the truly normal morphology based on WHO6. In terms of the quality control, it has multiple quality control for hardware, it has a quality control for software, and it also has a quality control for semen analysis. So the laboratories can satisfy the regulatory requirement for their particular countries, whether it is in the United States, Europe, or in other parts of the world. In terms of the reliability of LensHooke X1 Pro for sperm morphology, the positive predictive value is very poor, but the negative predictive value of X1 Pro to analyze sperm morphology is very high. So if the abnormal morphology is more than 4%, or not, sperm morphology is more than 4% by strict criteria, then these results have been considered to be almost 98% correct. However, if the results are less than 4%, then it is important that the manual review of the morphology should be done. And this is because the current technology is able to only look at a single screen. It is not able to do multiple shots of the sperm. So the images that it is able to analyze is limited. But the technology in the coming years are going to change, where it can take multiple views, and then the positive predictive value of sperm morphology of this device will improve significantly. What are the limitations? As I said, as I already explained, it cannot examine multiple fields because it is only fixed. The microscope is only able to see one, and it cannot examine the acrosome, although it can evaluate the shape. So new algorithm is being developed. In terms of the unique features of this device, I have tried to put it in a way so it is easy for all of you to understand. It's easy to use, no training. Even your assistant, your nurse, your receptionist, or somebody, even the doctor, can come and analyze the semen sample. It does not require any training. Of course, you have to understand 1 or 2 times how it works, but it takes few minutes. It takes 1/10 of a regular CASA, which is a real problem in many labs. You need a lot of space to keep the device of a computer-assisted semen analysis. It takes only 5 minutes, which is really the shortest of any machine that is available in the market. It's highly accurate, even at the concentration, which is severely oligospermic, 0.1 million to really hyperspermic 300 million, and pH is combined, so you don't have to take a pH separate. No fixation or staining required for doing the morphology. The inter and intra-observer correlation is very, very high. And the most important thing that I believe is there is the availability of result. You can get the results in real time while the patient is sitting with, for example, with our professor, Dr. Andreas. He is talking to the wife and husband about the problem. He can get the results by Bluetooth on his phone, or on his iPad, or on his laptop. And he can tell what the results are, what is the management. The patient doesn't have to come back. Patient is not anxious. The doctor doesn't have to call back. So all of these things make it very, very attractive. The take-home message, the new artificial intelligence optical microscopic device has very high level of precision and agreement compared to manual semen analysis. The results of X1 Pro for concentration, total motility, and progressive motility correlate very highly with manual semen analysis performed by an experienced operator. The positive predictive value for X1 Pro is 100% for oligospermic, and almost 86%, 87% for asthenospermic with poor motility. This device is fast and simple to operate, and it offers reliable and reproducible results. We have been using this at our clinic before I moved out of Cleveland Clinic until last few months ago on our patients, and it is being used in hundreds of clinics, thousands of clinics, I believe, around the world. It is available in many parts of the world, including in your country. Personally, for me, being an andrologist, I have never seen such a device in doing semen analysis on thousands of patients over the last 35, 40 years. I believe this is the most revolutionary advance in field of diagnostic andrology. Is it perfect? I don't think it is perfect, but nothing is perfect in the life. But it is a good, really a good solid thing for us to adopt and try. I believe that the technology will get better and better as the pace of changes are happening at a breakneck speed. It's no longer it takes 5 years or 10 years for the technology to change. We are seeing the changes within months, within 6 months, 1 year, and you will see a new version, new changes, which will change this. So this is a very promising development. I think a promising development of the century in my professional view. And I believe we need to take an open mind, keep an open mind, and test this technology and similar technologies that are available in the market, and try to change the most important part of evaluation of male infertility by using reproducible and advanced technique to do the semen examination, which is the foundation for infertility diagnostics and management. So this is basically the end of my talk. So thank you very much, all of you from Cleveland, and I look forward to questions from all of you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Professor. I think that was quite interesting, and maybe one of the first take-home messages for me is that it's good to know that even I can do that. Yeah. So if there's some stuff in the audience that works with us, with me, so I probably will be getting some homework once we start to use this device. But it's all about simplifying our work. Yeah. So that's good to know and interesting. I don't know if there is any questions from the audience. There is one. Let me just check. So I'll just go chronologically. Thank you very much. It was very interesting. I have one question. How is the machine taught to use artificial intelligence and semen analysis?
Well, I covered that. I mean, I'm not the one who developed this technology. First of all, I'm a user just like everybody else. So I understand I'm not an engineer. But from the concept that is being used is the machine underwent, the developers of this technology used the databases from real patients for semen analysis and fed that databases, I mean, those data into databases. They created the databases and then used the statistics to be able to tell, to predict which one is normal and abnormal, whether it is for concentration or for motility or for the shape. So using the data from the real patients, then they were able to tell the machine to be able to predict it correctly. And then as the predictive power improved, then the results started getting better and better. So this is a long-term process. It requires a great deal of patience. It requires a lot of work and a lot who need to work together. But of course, this is on the side of the company or the technology. We are really the users of this technology, and this is true for all AI-based systems that are being used in IVF laboratories.
Then another question: how are viscous samples treated? Are they pre-treated to decrease viscosity? That's another question from a biologist, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I think this is an important question. In terms of viscosity, we really need homogeneous sample. This is really important for semen analysis, whether it is for manual semen analysis or for computer-assisted semen analysis. So if the sample is very highly viscous, then I will recommend that you follow the WHO guidelines to use the water bath. Put the sample in the water at 37 degrees centigrade for 30 minutes before you can start to examine. So I think the correct procedure is already defined in the WHO, and it applies not only for manual, but also for all type of devices, including the computer-assisted semen analyzer.
All right. And then what criteria is used by the device to evaluate morphology?
Well, we use
Kruger?
Yeah, we use the strict criteria. We no longer call it Kruger. That has been discontinued by the WHO since 2010 when they came out with the WHO 5th edition. So the use of Kruger has been removed. It only says strict criteria, and it's the same thing now in the 6th edition. We use the strict criteria to evaluate the morphology of a sperm from its head to tail. Since this particular device does not use the staining technique, it cannot detect the acrosome. However, it could examine the size more precisely than manual semen analysis, and it could also prove some kind of correlation with the fertilization rate, and these have to be studied.
All right. Then it goes on. How many sperm does the device count to determine the parameters?
So this is a very important question, and we see all kind of samples coming in. Some are azoospermic, some are oligospermic, some are severely oligospermic, some are normal, some are really, really very, very high. So what LensHooke X1 Pro does, it will examine every sperm within the 100 grid it has. Therefore, if the concentration is greater than 20 million, it will count more than 200 sperm to decide the results of motility and morphology. However, if the concentration is lesser, then it might be less than 200. However, if you use the manual analysis, it requires you to separate it into two parts. One is for concentration motility, the other is for morphology. And if the concentration is really, really low, you need to concentrate it to examine the morphology by manual semen analysis. However, if you use the LensHooke X1 Pro to examine the morphology and found the concentration is low, you can concentrate it to examine the morphology again, but it may not be always required. If you have, even with the samples with 5 million or less, you can actually examine it on the machine itself.
All right. It's getting more busy. Another question, or the next one in line. What is the effect of WBC on the count used by the CASA system?
So in terms of the WBC, we haven't seen really any effect. WBC is present, or the white blood cell, as you said, is commonly present in semen samples, but the machine is able to identify very well the cells which are sperm cell because of its because of the size and configuration which is already fed into the machine. So it can tell very accurately if this is a sperm cell or a white blood cell or a immature germ cell or epithelial cells like that. So the results of the LensHooke in terms of identifying the sperm cell accurately is very, very high. It does not, the results are not impacted by the presence of the white blood cells in the semen sample.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Does this technology have some kind of cells or conditions that could interfere in the results?
I'll have to think what may be the limitations. According to the specification in terms of the minimum and maximum concentration of samples that it can analyze, it can examine the concentration from 0.1 to 300 million. However, we recommend that you double check the sample if it is less than 5 million. This is my personal and professional view. Although it could examine, the device can examine 100 grids, it can only examine one field. Therefore, if there is no sperm inside this field, but one has another field, the answer will be different. So it is important to double check manually if the concentration is really low, less than 5 million. And in terms of the sensitivity of the concentration is 100%. Motility is almost 94%. Progressive motility is almost 91%. So in all of these categories of sperm parameters, it is highly accurate.
Thank you. Then regarding astenozo and oligospermia, does LensHooke or could it help to determine these conditions?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the best part of it, because we, in our laboratory validation studies, which were published in 2 peer-reviewed articles. The latest one was in the World Journal of Men's Health. I believe it was published about 3 years ago, and the paper is available online, free. We have demonstrated that LensHooke X1 Pro could examine the concentration from 0.1 to 300 million without dilution, and check motility from 1 to 100% for motility. Therefore, it could really evaluate asthenospermic and oligospermic samples. However, to be safe in the laboratories, I will recommend for those samples which have a concentration below 5 million, you can do a manual check just to double confirm. And otherwise, I think the results from what we have demonstrated are highly accurate and reproducible.
Interesting. Then 2 more questions I have showing up here. Does this technology eliminate the need to prepare or sort out the sperms with another or with other conventional methods like washing or gradient?
Can you explain?
Repeat again? Yeah. So I'll repeat. Does this technology eliminate the need to prepare or sort out sperms with other conventional methods like washing or gradient?
Absolutely. There is no need to wash or do any other thing just for a routine semen examination. There is no need. Absolutely not required.
All right. Well then, perfect. It got more and more busy, so that's good. And I think I can leave with the impression that this is something to really simplify things, which is good, because if I, as a clinician, could receive the result in almost no time on my phone while I'm maybe still with the patients, that would be a big plus and would really give added value to the first visit, to the first consultation. That's quite interesting, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is something that we believe is the most important point of this technology. And of course, that, as I said, the technology is not perfect, but for what we are comparing with a bullock cart and with a really Rolls Royce. Of course, the Rolls Royce needs more work, and it will become a Ferrari maybe after a few years, or maybe next year, we don't know. But this is a process which is going to become better and better. So right now, I think knowing the limitations and advantages will allow all the reproductive professionals to give it a try, to test it and see whether they feel that it provides better results than their current technology that they are using, or the current way of doing the semen analysis. So I just urge, they don't need to believe me. They just should try and see this technology or similar technology that may be in the market, that they feel comfortable and find and generate some results. And we are all scientists, so hopefully everyone can come up with the best a decision on their own for their own patients and help the patient.
And actually, there's one last question here, and then I'll give the floor to Judith for some final words. The last question, in terms of economic benefit, from how many spermograms per day do you think it would be beneficial to switch from the manual method to the LensHooke?
This is a good question for somebody with the MBA, somebody with a business background, to do the cost and benefit analysis. But it's difficult to tell. But I think what I can tell is there is a great savings in time. And if a routine semen analysis is taking 30 minutes and this is taking 5 minutes, so you can calculate the actual time that is saved for doing it, and also the frustration and difficulties and mistakes that are happening in the laboratory. So the cost of device itself is fairly moderate in my view. The main cost is the actual cassette that is to be replaced for each semen analysis. But these costs are variable and depend on the market and each country and the usage that you have. So I believe that it is something which is really you will find each clinic will have to calculate the cost, but they have to really look at the advantages of using this technology and how it really improves the results of their reproductive outcome, because semen analysis is the basic workup and everything depends on that. So if we are making the mistakes at the basic level, at the foundation level, then everything that we are building on top of it is going to be really prone to errors. This is my view.
Nice. I think there was a good closing remark from your side. And I think it would be nice to have some final words to close the session.